Okay. Oh, there we go. There we go. Hopefully it's back for good and not just another temporary thing, but we'll see how that goes. Oh man, that's interesting. I wanted to do this thing just for a couple hours. Alright, we'll try it. We'll keep doing this. Yeah, the first time it was good for like maybe 3 minutes and then it just stopped. And then I did it again and it was good for like 30 seconds and then stopped again, so.
Every child could sing verses about the Sky River, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away.
Were all these things the Iblis stone? Long hidden in a buried temple. Another ancient item that was only resurfacing now. Drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals.
To get, kind of go through and do the streaming thing a little bit more.
Distrusted doors that open
having
automatically.
this kind of all day, so.
Especially after being buried for millennia. Was this some sort of trap?
They had to bury him in a bucket. Actually, several buckets.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, the funny thing was, I had planned on doing this Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I was thinking about it yesterday, and everything was alright. And then I kind of just thought about it today and realized I kind of want to do it, so. Yeah. No, I mean, you gotta figure your shit out, though. I get that. And do your shit before, kind of get back to this. Oh, yeah, coming out, thank you.
They were still searching for a way in. Good. And he hadn't come too late.
Yeah, hopefully you get your shit figured out and you can get back to doing what you do here, the streaming thing. I was lurking for a bit when you were doing that, playing Pokemon. But, seemed like you're having some fun, so, yeah, like I said, hopefully you get your stuff figured out and get back to doing it.
Very well known, weren't they?
Well,
Can I borrow that?
Those, yeah. I know the name, but yeah, I know nothing of the series in general. Weren't they like a side-scrolling action type? Or am I wrong about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bernardo had been the terror of the sandcastles when he was 2.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I'd certainly be interested in checking that out when you come back to it. For sure, for sure. That'd be cool. Alright. I'll just have that screen. Yeah, I don't feel like reading tonight. But, do this.
What was really fun was hooking yourself onto a moving ship.
I know when I actually through the world and it, oh! Oh. Is it like, that's interesting, yeah. Huh. I wonder, I'm imagining it's probably because, there are a lot of indie games that kind of adapted that with their games now that kind of made me think about it, but that's definitely interesting. Huh. Nice. Go.
I'm sorry. Is that your shield?
Here we go. Unreal treasures, okay. And resistance to physical damage by 20%. Cool.
How could a temple to Iblis still even exist? The transcendent emperor had destroyed all the shrines of the lost gods after exiling them. Had it been buried in that long-ago battle? Or had Iblis foreseen his fate and hidden it from his enemy? The Ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders. It was a bit windy up here. It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made solid. Nervous, he picked it up. Who said that? It was the stone. Eager, thirsty. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once, and Renato wasn't sure he really wanted to be Emperor. Why not capture the core of Sky Ripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. "What's the core?" said the stone anxiously. The stone bothered him. He hated being told what to do. Wasn't that why he joined the rebellion? Wasn't that why he'd refused to be a soldier? He'd agreed to come on board only if he could freelance. The stone felt a bit clingy. The sage Calaveras had told him where to find the Sky Ripper, a weapon capable of challenging the gods. Even without its armature, the core would still possess great power. He would go there. The moment he landed the Farfarer, Renato had a rare feeling of regret. It's not too late, he thought. He could turn around and sail for Zenobia's island. He frowned. Wait a minute. He didn't want to kill Zenobia, did he? Sure, technically she was the enemy, but they'd been at Sword Fu school together. They'd never been lovers, but somehow they'd been closer. She'd told him every secret about herself, except the biggest one, that she was the Emperor's daughter. No, kill Zenobia, whispered the stone, before it's too late. Ooh, what's there? Boy, someone has spent a lot of money for a graduation present. Bernardo and hot potato. There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. Firewalls only let you through if they think you're hot enough. You almost never saw wild gogglers together like this. The toads had to train them not to peck each other to death. So these had to be imperial gogglers. That meant ravens were up ahead. Boom! Newly remembered knowledge. He needed to focus. The stone hadn't lied about what it could do for him. With each raven he cut down, he felt a jolt of power flowing into his arm. "You're weak," whispered the stone. "The call will kill you." "Are you afraid of it?" Don't be ridiculous. It chuckled. But it's unstable. It will poison you so much as carry it, and if you try to use it, it will explode catastrophically. Bernardo did not trust rocks that talked in his head. He went onwards. hoped his hook didn't break.
Of course there was a puzzle. You couldn't expect the transcendent Emperor to bury a god's eye in a leather sack where anyone could pick it up.
First try.
This was way better than being able to shrink down to the size of an ant. What was that all about, anyway? As he approached the core, the stone became hysterical.
No. Humans' power will rip a hole in space and time.
He had a sudden vision of plunging his gauntlet into the core and dying in anguish. That wasn't his vision, was it? The stone had sent him its darkest fears, hadn't it? He had a sudden impulse to do exactly that. He raised his right fist and plunged it into the core. There was a rush of light. He thought he could hear the stone screaming. And then he passed out. When Ronaldo came to, the core was gone. But the Iblis stone was no longer black, but glowing with a blue light. And it was silent. "I can't hear you," he sang out. And, "You?" It didn't answer. "Ha!" he said. He had defeated the demonic gem with the power of his mind. He felt invincible. It was time to attack the Imperial outpost on the Nexus. Take the battle to the enemy. But among the huge crystals, there was also an observatory. A wise man would probably ask the scientists exactly what he had first. How wise was he?
Okay.
As the Farfarer made its way toward the Nexus, Ronaldo watched sparks fly out of the core. The Iblis stone sucked them in hungrily. You'd think the stone would want this kind of power, wouldn't it? Thought Ronaldo. Well, the scientists would explain it all. This time, Ronaldo was sure he'd figured out how to use the core safely. See? He'd trusted his gut, and it had worked out. That's what it meant to be a hero. To ignore the naysayers and the odd-makers, and do what you knew was right, and have it turn out to be the right thing. Well, he wasn't worried. Once he got to the observatory, the scientist toads could explain it. Then he could carry the war into the enemy's camp and destroy them all. Oh dear, he was getting a little bloodthirsty, wasn't he? Once, he found a Superman issue #1 in mint condition in a jar he'd broken. He planned to keep breaking things until he had the whole series. He'd once met a pirate captain who used hooks to get around his ship. Oh, what was his name again? In this chest, there were woodcuts of amazingly beautiful vixens wearing no clothes at all. And something more useful.
All right, then. Keep this going.
Bernardo had never felt better in his life. Normally, a battle would wear him down and he would need a night's sleep. Now he felt like he could go all night and all day. He felt like people were cheering him on, and he could practically hear their applause as he slew one raven after another. The Iblis Stone and the Sky Ripper Core. Two artifacts from the time of legends. Bernardo was becoming a legendary hero, wasn't he? He had enough power to save the rebellion, but he had to understand this power, so he would not misuse it.
Alright. Yes. Increased chance rate.
make time itself slow for you. Sharp? Check. Pointy? Check. Flexible? Check. What else do you need in a sword? For a moment, I wished that somebody had been watching.
Yeah, I could see that. I guess if you're getting multiple endings, we kind of satisfy you enough to try to go 100% completion. But yeah, there's only like 4 swords and like 7 gems, I think. Yeah, it's definitely not a lot at all.
Good thing Renato didn't have vertigo.
Even with that.
The toads at the observatory measured the stone with their occult devices. I fed it the core of Sky River, explained Renato. No more TV balance souls.
But the core is not an unlimited energy source,
said one toad. Another said,
there's a feedback loop which could overload the stone. The stone doesn't actually feed on souls,
claimed a third.
But on pain of killing another sentient being. If you can truly be at peace with yourself, it would not overload.
This was all very confusing. At peace? Yes, the mountains were peaceful and quiet, but he now had the power to turn the tides. He should report to the Rebellion Council and prepare for the decisive battle. The one thing he understood from all the toad arguments, maybe the stone did not feed on blood or souls or rage. It fed on empathy. It fed on the pain he felt when he put an end to another being's existence. Even if that other being was a raven intent on killing him. If he could find peace, then he could use the power of the Ibla stone without being taken over by its evil. The mountains. He would go to the mountains. He could find peace there. Unfortunately, the mountains were not empty. There were ravens everywhere. No matter. He had to fight, yes, but he didn't have to be angry. Parry, dodge, slash, and breathe. Yes, focus on the rhythm, the dance of it, not on the blood or the raven's core as they died. It was working. He wasn't feeling those dark jolts of elvish energy. He wasn't feeling the Iblis stone. He wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. They really needed to construct additional pylons. Thought, Renato? Ice walls only let you through if they knew you were cool.
Yeah, I was thinking actually about trying to get all the endings here, so... Not here specifically, but like... This would be another one that I kind of just tried 100%, so... I'll probably be doing this, try and do it throughout the week. For a couple hours. Kind of helped me out. Yeah, kind of helped me complete this. And I haven't seen all the endings, just the ones I got to, because, like you said, it does kind of get a bit tedious. But yeah, like I said, hopefully taking it in portions will hopefully help with that.
Think of all the artisans he was creating employment for. Truly, he was a job creator.
The stone was still silent. His mind was his own, and his heart, too. He bore them no ill will, these ravens. They were doing their job. They were expressing their nature. Dance, whirl, parry, jab, and breathe. It was all so simple, wasn't it? Something was missing. He didn't feel truly at peace. Wait. Wasn't this near where Calaveras lived? Now the sage would help him figure it all out. Ravens didn't smell any better dead, Renato thought. This chest had teaspoons stolen from every inn in Boreas. Oh, there's something more useful.
I should have my health. Really?
Small step for a fox, he thought.
You're doing this.
Renato wondered what would happen if he jumped. Would he be rescued by an emergency platform? The Iblis Stone, silenced by the Sky River's core, had given Renato enough power to challenge the Imperial fleet. But what Renato was seeking was inner peace. The rebellion was on the verge of extinction. It would have to wait. At the end of the mountain path, he found the wise Calaveras in his workshop. "To fix souls or only artifacts?" he asked the sage.
Does your soul need fixing?
Asked the sage. "I've been killing a lot of ravens lately," he told the sage.
You're a fox,
said Calaveras.
and to kill birds is part of your nature. Take joy in it. I mean, I might as well worry about eating flies. Would you like a fly?
It was true. That's what he had forgotten. The joy. Now he was ready for the final battle. The Farfarer cut through the clouds. The air had never felt so sweet since he was a child. There it was. The dreaded Imperial fleet. He could smell wet hemp ropes ahead, wood and tar, and ravens. Even the fleet smelt good, somehow. He was ready. He was ready. Renato had it all squared away in his head. He would kill the Emperor. Isengrim III had begun well, but he had gone mad. He was trying to invoke the lost gods by means of dark, blasphemous rituals. That was a secret. But the victims had spoken to Renato. The ghosts had spoken. No anger. Renato could not afford anger. It was empowering the crystal in his sword. That made him stronger, but it clouded his mind. He would not be a hero. A hero strives. Renato would just be one with everything. The Emperor would die, and the wheel would turn, and all would be restored without rancor, without sorrow, without pain. Renato remembered when he'd first stolen one of these. Good times.
This is supposed to be that. Oh, yeah. I did not realize. Well then. So stay in here. Wait. Actually.
He was sort of yanking his own chain, wasn't he? But the more he thought about it, and he had so much more time to think about it now that he was not worrying about the battle, killing the Emperor would not change anything. Another would take his place. Perhaps Zenobia. Perhaps the Speaker of the Rebel Council, and power would corrupt them too, and death would make grief, and grief would lead to hatred. He must lead by example. Reject the violence. Reject the desire to create violence. But how? It was definitely easier to fight inanimate objects. Renato wondered if it wasn't cheaper to build bridges or stairs.
Yeah. You kind of find yourself doing this quite a lot.
Finally, he came to the Emperor's ship.
The
path behind him was strewn with dead ravens. The path to enlightenment. His mistake, he realized, was trying to change the world. The world would spin and the wheel would revolve whether he strove against it or not. What he had to do was nothing. He had attained enlightenment. He sat down, adopted a full lotus position, and began to meditate. And all around him, the warriors stopped fighting too. They knew. They could feel his enlightenment. They gave up fighting, dropped their weapons, and became his disciples. No, just kidding. The nearest raven stabbed him with a sword and then chopped off his head. I might not have thought this through properly. Thought Renato's head as it rolled around the deck and died. And just like that, he was alive again. And back on the Farfarer, still fleeing burning Ubar. The book was still open before him. So, the book was a portal. It took you to the future when your destinies would branch. He had failed and died 3 times, but he'd learned another true thing. The Iblis Stone was evil. It would try to corrupt anyone who used it.
Alrighty. 2 or 4. Somebody's in trouble, yeah. Thankfully, I live right on the road, so I can tell exactly, when somebody's going to be in trouble, or somebody's on their way to possibly be needing to go to the hospital. Or, there's a big-ass fucking fire. All of the things. Love being on the road, being near the road. So great. You hear all the noises. Okay. So now the times I've played this, I have never gotten Zenobia's truth. Oh, at least I'm not alone on that. It's one of the things that I thought about more than anything, that if it became a problem doing this, I could always just turn the sound off and just speak and chat. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't got any complaints from people who come in and chat with me and hang out, so obviously it's not too bad. But I don't know. Maybe people are just doing like I am. I'm not sure. But I am certainly glad I'm not alone on that. Okay.
But he was starting to feel like he was getting the hang of this. There was a way through to victory. He could feel it. He just had to keep running the path of Destinies. With that, the book fluttered back to the beginning, and he fell into it.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer.
Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong, but he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert.
The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact.
It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster.
Maybe he could find a way to use it,
to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion
Yeah, for sure.
that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could
I'll probably be playing
really
this again on
leave
Friday.
to the Ravens?
If you want to stop by, you can absolutely do that. It's up to you. But yeah, now have a fantastic night, and I shall catch you later. So, for sure. Have a good night.
Ah, Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble given time, but he was out of time.
Lapino's frantic message said that the Ravens were going to kill him for being a rebel spy, and that he had a clever plan. If the fleet reached him first, they'd string him up for that. Never mind the winged horse. Or so Lapino had told him over the far speaker anyway.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens?
The Ravens had taken the town. Bernardo had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Bernardo hoped the people were just hiding. Bernardo thought of the Iblis stone and shivered. He had no business messing with ancient, cruel artifacts. What he needed was his friends around him. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
What?
burnt fur. His.
Huh? I don't think it's supposed to be like this. What the fuck?
Odd that they never locked these things.
Oh my god. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I think the game fucking bugged out. That's not supposed to be like this at all. Well, alright then. Yeah, that happened. Okay. Well then. Alright. That was the thing that happened. Oh. Tap. Doing it again. First glitch of the game. First freaking glitch of the game. Oh shit.
He's hit, he thought.
I walked right into the fucking thing. Alright. This one too much. Oh. That was great. I'm quite enjoying it. I love seeing you share that clip though. It was fantastic.
Well, he'd always wanted to do that.
I did not remember if they actually did.
This stone was incredibly valuable. Bernardo could sense it. Also, it still had its price tag.
Oh, I don't have a shield breaker yet. That's the one I want. I have a shield breaker. I'm using another gem. Rubino, what a full barrier, bitch.
It wasn't his fault. They looked so breakable.
Yeah, don't you
Ah,
fucking
bet you never saw that coming.
I'm going backwards, and I don't understand why. This is not the difficult part. And we're going backwards now. No, this is the same. Well, I am here. Why is this so difficult for me? This is true.
Who made all these ore chests anyway? Well, you could have quite a business doing that.
I need to jump down. Fair enough.
Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lupino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lupino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lupino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The Ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, see, this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia.
We capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows.
And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who also happened to be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renado's best friend in Sword Fu school. And you're still mad for her, the rabbit reminded him. They'd been close. She'd told him things no one else knew. But she'd never told him who she really was.
She knows all the Emperor's plans, chuckled the Master Spy.
She won't give them up easily.
She'll tell the interrogators, all right, said Lapino.
Taking her would change the game, all right.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
Renato wondered if his future self had commissioned these poles.
Hey, I'm a firefox, thought Renato.
Oh, yeah, you really are a firefox. Oh, shit.
This couldn't be good for global warming.
Finally got the shield breaker. Sucks it's freaking RNG though. Would be nice if I had gotten that sooner. Okay, it is, I guess.
This chest contained blank passports from 15 countries. And something useful. Why was Lapino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lapino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lapino wanted. There must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
You're going for truth anyway, so. Shit. That's just
Didn't your mother tell you it's rude to stare? Snapped Renato, a little smug.
I do believe. Let's see.
Smashing things was fun.
Gotcha.
So, what's this plan of yours?
Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato. Oh, go ahead. I'm sure you know better, said Lupino. Ooh, a workbench. Did he have any jewels he hadn't tried out? He had.
Yes. Fucking shield breaker I'm waiting on. So I don't know what he actually needs. Yeah. Well, I would very much like to open the fucking chest, thank you.
The rock felt hot in his hand. He could feel its secret power.
That just happened.
Hey, I got this friend who's a swan. Could he join up? He dyes his feathers.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. She was curled up at her bed. Oh, he'd forgotten how beautiful she was. How sleek. How soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She became smoke. And he noticed he had a blade to his throat. Stay a while. Heard a familiar voice. Did you really think you could capture me? Zenobia said as the ship lifted off. Now I just wanted some privacy. Renato said, did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you? And he told her why. His Imperial Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him immortal. But to seal the bargain, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. You're lying. She was furious. You can't prove that. I can. And so, they set sail for the Nexus. The scientists at the observatory have resurrected one of his victims. Well, he's not exactly alive, but it can talk, and it can't lie. You took a big risk. You know, I could just cast a spell to make you tell me where the rebel base is, and you wouldn't consider that cheating? She frowned. Ugh, fine. Let's go get your witness. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. Well, they really needed to redecorate anyway. Once you try it, you're hooked. Magical jewel. Renato couldn't wait to find a workbench.
This one.
caught up with him. Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic? Why? Do you want to join in? Oh, no, I'd destroy his books and... all right, I suppose I wouldn't.
She stopped, troubled. He ran on.
Imagine getting a horse up in one of these things. It would be cursing a blue streak.
The scientists on this island had been investigating the Emperor's dark ritual on their own. They were neutral in the civil war engulfing the Empire, but they could see that the dark magics the old toad had loosed were changing the world. Renato hoped he and Zenobia weren't putting them in danger.
Of these cannonballs.
Okay.
This could be the new aerobics craze. Am I right?
Absolutely not.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The ravens had taken care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared around, shocked. The scientists had been neutral. They had no part in the rebellion. "Take me to your council," she said, shaken. "I have things to tell them." It was what Renato had gambled on. The Zenobia would turn against her father once she knew his madness. But the rebel base was secret. Could he really risk taking the Emperor's daughter there? Renato reached the Pino by Farspeaker Toad, the one creature the ravens had left alive at the observatory.
Lapino seemed awfully anxious to meet him at the secret base. If he was a spy for the Empire, He'd turn around and reveal the coordinates to the Empire, jeopardizing the entire rebellion. But Renato couldn't bear to think that Lupino would commit such horrible treachery. There was still good in the Mad Rabbit. He felt sure of it.
I'll meet up with you at the base, Lupino said through the toad. Good thinking. Renato gave him the coordinates. There's a shuttle here I can borrow.
Renato found Zenobia in the chart room.
I've been having awful dreams, she said. Dead kittens and worse. I thought they were only dreams, you know. Why would anyone want the lost gods back? In those days, the favorite of a god could become immortal. She held herself and shivered. He wants to become an eater of souls. Well, I'm not afraid of dying. Just dying of boredom. Renato said, but she didn't laugh.
Silence fell as they flew towards the ruins of the city of Ubar, where the rebellion leadership was hiding. If Zenobia couldn't help them fight off her father, no one could. As they touched the ground, he could smell the ravens and hear their hungry caws in the distance.
They're probably looking for me, she said. You go on ahead. She had that fiery look in her eyes that he'd always loved. It was a bit odd, though. How easy she'd been to convince. It was what he'd gambled on, but he'd expected more of an argument. She'd always loved to argue. She considered it the fastest way to the truth. Maybe she'd long suspected the truth. Sometimes all it took was taking the bandages from your eyes. That must be it, he told himself.
Renato smash!
They caught their breath under a ruined arch. It's beautiful, she said. This was the library of Ubar, he said. Your father's ravens thought they had an ancient book. She nodded. Was she crying? This was exactly what I wanted, Renato thought. To turn her to our cause. So, why do I feel something is terribly wrong? Because nothing ever goes this smoothly, is why. Hey, why don't you guys fight in groups? I know, because there's no I in team.
was the point of this gate? Did they think no one would notice the lever? The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. Council toads swarmed around Zenobia, shocked she was there, shocked she had changed sides. Then the walls exploded. He heard toads croaking, "Oh, the ravens!" Blackbirds were pouring through holes everywhere. "It's a trap!" cried the council speaker. In the confusion, he saw flashes of magic. Then Zenobia being hustled off by Imperial troops. So she had betrayed him after all. Renato ran for his ship. The Farfarer flew into the clouds, barely losing the Imperial ravens pursuing him. The rebellion was lost, and he had lost it. There was nothing to do but find Zenobia and make her pay for her treachery. His heart ached. He still loved her. But he had trusted her, and he had been a fool. She would be back at the fleet, gloating with her mad, bloodthirsty father. For all Renato knew, she was helping him bring back the old, lost gods back from their exile.
Just when I got that, all this part of it.
Renato landed in the middle of the Imperial fleet. The rebels were losing badly. Without leadership, it was a slaughter. Renato felt strangely free, trying not to think about how he had lost the war, trying not to think about how he had loved Zenobia, blinded himself to her treachery. That's what it meant to be a hero. To keep on fighting after the most bitter of betrayals. To never know if you could trust anyone. Cats. What a waste of fur. Ah, the road less traveled, thought Renato. How intriguing. Sensed the jewel's power. He had a feeling they were going to be great friends. What had happened to Lupino? Had the Mad Rabbit fled to safety? Or was he forlornly carrying on like the few rebels Renato could see here or there? Ugh, it didn't matter anymore. All there was slash and spin, parry and lunge, over and over as he fought his way across the fleet.
All there was finding the girl he'd once slugged, who had used his love against him and putting as big a hole in her heart as she'd left in his. Time to die, he thought. And it was. For some reason, Bernardo remembered a fairy tale his mother had told him about a land where only the apes talked and animals went around without clothes. Imagine if you built a house of one of these things. Yes, that would be amazing. It would be like having a boat.
Oh, gosh.
Not really. Suddenly, Zenobia was there, advancing a Lapino. So the mad rabbit had survived. "Save me, or I'm done for!" screamed Lapino. Zenobia turned, showing her teeth in a smile. You're alive! Renato ran towards the witch. Lupino's the one who betrayed you, she shouted. He warned my father. Before he could think, Renato sank his sword into the sorceress. She stared at him, heartbroken. No! Lupino's the traitor! Renato had an awful, sinking feeling in his stomach. Then, he felt a knife in his back. I'm afraid she's right, said the Mad Rabbit. Ain't I a stinker? Then, the sun went out. Damn it. And he hadn't learned anything new this time. He'd done the same thing twice, yet expected a different outcome.
Well, that was kind of a waste. Okay. Well, it's pretty close to 2 hours. That's what time I called it. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and end this here, and we'll see you later. This is going to happen. Alrighty. Time to go, let's go, and yeah. I'll see you another time. Good mornings.